There are secrets buried deep in the forest. Names that no one dares to mention, eyes that have witnessed the truth, have chosen to remain silent for the rest of their lives. But today, I will tell you. Pause. The wind blows a little stronger. A soft whistle as if someone is whispering in the forest. This story is not a legend. It is not a movie. It is the true memory of a man named Orlando, and my grandfather. And what he went through on a fateful night almost wiped out our entire family from the face of the earth. The screen shows a red dirt road, jeep rolling through a layer of dust. The words slowly appear. Ubusan ang lahi dahil ay pag-ibig. A tragedy that began with a friendship and ended with blood. It all begins with a city boy, forced to leave the bustling Manila after a family tragedy and a remote village where people believe darkness is not just the absence of light, but the presence of something else. What the people there call aswang. A young Orlando looks out the car window, deserted fields, silhouettes of people slowly watching the car pass. Elve's grandfather said he never believed in ghosts, until that night. The night he witnessed hot soup being served on the table, but the soul of the person who cooked it was still in the kitchen. Now the scene changes to darkness. The sound of knives hitting the cutting board. The whispers become clearer, hindi ka na makakaalis ni. You may not believe it, but after hearing this story you will have to ask yourself. Does the ghost really live in the forest? Or is it sitting right at the dinner table, next to you? Orlando is 16. The city is where he was born, with its neon lights, cramped jeeps, and small dreams. But no one expected it would all end with a dismissal letter, a cold rented room, and decision to return to the countryside his mother had left behind as a young girl. The mother packed her bags. The father looked silently out the window. Orlando sat in the corner, clutching the old radio. The jeep sped through the red dirt roads. The words slowly appeared. Barangay Lonchen, 7 hours drive from Manila. No electricity, no signal, and no greetings. That village was not like his mother's faint memories. It was darker, more silent. And there was something always lurking behind the trees, eyes watching from the shadows. Orlando helped his mother cook rice on a wood stove, his eyes always glancing towards the forest. The old grandfather just stared out at the edge of the forest every afternoon, sighing. Since you came back, I hear your call more clearly. The children in the village did not play with Orlando, they just stood and watched from afar, whispering to each other. That's the one from the city. He smells differently. Then one night under the light of the new moon, the village held a traditional dance festival. Orlando, out of boredom, agreed to go with his distant cousin to attend. But he didn't know that ceremony would change his whole life. The village festival scene, dim lights, hand drums, young men dancing around the fire. Orlando accidentally invited girl to dance, not knowing that she was the lover of a hot-blooded village boy. The boy got angry, rushed to hit Orlando. A punch was about to land on Orlando's face when Gary's hand stopped it. Gary, 17 years old, the eldest son of the village kapitan. Tall, calm eyes, standing firmly like an old tree in the middle of the market. He said a short but weighty sentence. Kung gusto mong lumaban, ako na lang. Pero tandaan mo may mga mata sa dilim. The troublemaker backed off, the people dispersed, no one dared to disobey Gary. From that moment, Orlando knew he was no longer alone. At noon, the two of them skipped school to follow the stream, past the red mushroom-covered mounds, and reached the edge of the forbidden forest. The old man warned, "Don't go at dusk. There's something that doesn't want to be seen." Orlando laughed. "It's just a way to scare children." But Gary didn't laugh. He stared at a strange scratch on the tree trunk like a fingernail mark. Their friendship was like a small fire warming the village night. But what they didn't know was, the deeper they went into the darkness, the more that fire attracted the things that were hidden in the forest. And then one night, amid the laughter, the wine, and the smoke of meat, Orlando saw something that no one could forget. Ibig, the last girl of the Sumilang family, the oldest family in the village. They say, no one in that family leaves the village unchanged. And if they come back, they are no longer themselves. Orlando and the first glance. At a party after the fight, Orlando saw Ibig for the first time. She was wearing a white shirt, holding a tray of fruit. Her eyes were dreamy, standing in the middle of the crowd as if she didn't belong there. Gary whispered, "Ibig, Harold's youngest sister. Be careful. She's different." Orlando smiled, not paying attention. But from that day on, he couldn't stop thinking about the girl with skin as white as the crescent moon. One day, Harold, Ibig's older brother, invited Orlando to his house for dinner. The house was located at the edge of the forest, with stone walls and an old thatched roof. But the inside was so clean and tidy that it was strange. Ibig's mother, an old woman with white hair, smiled gently, but her eyes were empty. Her father, a man as thin as a stick, only muttered something under his breath. It sounded like an ancient scripture. The food, rich in flavor, soft and sweet, strange. Wild meat, Harold loved. Lily father's specialty. Orlando felt a chill. Not because of the taste of the meat, but because the hot soup didn't steam. Rumors about aswang and disappearances. An old man in the village whispered to Orlando when he met him at the well. "I once saw the daughter of the Sumilang family coming out of the forest when the moon was full. On her mouth, it was red." As time went on, Orlando heard more and more stories. People disappearing for no reason. Fragments of bones around the edge of the forest. The smell of blood in the wine every moonlit night. He tried not to believe it, but then that night came. The drinking party and the unexpected. One afternoon, Harold invited Orlando and Gary to drink to celebrate his nephew's birthday. The atmosphere was cheerful, laughing, and dishes were served continuously. Ibig smiled gently, pouring wine for Orlando. But in the eyes of the old woman, Ibig's mother, there was still a void, as if there was no soul. Night fell. The group was already tipsy. Orlando got up to go to the bathroom behind the house. Gary dozed off for a while and then woke up, bewildered. Something isn't right. Ritual in the dark, the devil's sup. Orlando followed the path behind the kitchen. Only the oil lamp was flickering. From afar, he saw two figures huddled around a boiling pot. It was Ibig's parents. Their hands were covered in blood. A dark red piece of meat was dropped into the pot. The mumbling rang out again, "Sa dugo nagsisimula, sa dugo matatapos." Born from blood, ended your blood. Orlando was stunned. "I know that's not wild meat. That's human organs. And the feast in the house is the rest of the ritual. The death bulalo." Back at the table, the bulalo had just been served. The pot of bone broth was steaming. Everyone began to eat. One by one, their eyes were downcast. Harold smiled gently, holding his child in his arms. Espis cooked a full bowl for Orlando. "You haven't eaten anything." "I cooked it, me." Orlando looked around. Gary looked back at him, his face pale. Everyone began to fall asleep. Only the two of them were still conscious. That night, Orlando knew he was sitting in the middle of a sacrificial ceremony, and the soup before him was the gateway to hell. Orlando slowly put down the bowl of soup. Esp looked at him, lips pressed together, hands shaking slightly. From outside the window, red eyes peeked out from between the shadows of the trees. Sa dugo nagsisimula, sa dugo matatapos. There are truths that should not be unearthed. But when Orlando and Gary opened their eyes the next morning, they were standing on the edge of life and something more terrible than death. S became unusually quiet. Dark circles under her eyes. Waking up in the middle of the night, wandering around the house. One morning, Orlando discovered bite marks on her wrist. "Mosquitoes," she said, her eyes not looking straight. The children in the village whispered. "Miss Esp no longer eats rice, she only drinks water, red water." Gary came, pulled Orlando aside, and growled. "You have to tell the truth. What did you see in the kitchen that night?" Orlando trembled. Human organs and her mother's eyes, not human eyes. One evening, the whole village gathered to celebrate the harvest festival, hosted Ila the Esp family. The lights were bright and the food was spread all over the yard: grilled meat, fried blood, bone soup. Orlando didn't touch anything. Gary sat opposite, clenching his fists. From the kitchen, Orlando saw two old people, Esp's parents, eating a tied woman alive. Blood dripped, the sound of chewing it chewed like a nightmare. Narrator. It's no longer a ritual. It's a meal. Gary couldn't help but scream in front of everyone. Aswang! Aswang! Everyone was stunned. Then one by one they collapsed. As if hypnotized. As if cursed. Orlando grabbed Esp's hand and pulled her away. She seemed to have lost her soul. Her feet didn't touch the ground, she didn't say a word. Gary picked up his machete and cut his way through the forest, blood flowing from his hand. From behind, a strange howl rang out. Not like a human voice. Not like beast either. A figure rushed out of the forest, Esp's brother, Harold, holding a wooden stick, blocking the way. Stop! Don't take my sister away. Orlando screaming. They're not human anymore. They're murderers. Harold shed tears. I know. But can't betray in my own flesh and blood. That's any family. Esp sobbed, kneeling down. Brother, please let me go. Harold slowly backed away. But in his eyes was the gradual death of humanity. Orlando, Gary, Esp hid in the old cave Ila the stream. The night seemed endless. Esp whispered, I saw that girl's body. They forced me to drink her blood. Gary trembled. You know, Orlando. I think I ate human flesh too. That night, that smell. I recognized him. The three of them fell silent, Ila the faint light of the fire. In the distance, a fire broke out. Orlando's house was on fire. They knew the escape had begun. They thought they had escaped. But for those bound by blood and curses, there is no escape. There is only one choice, to lose your mind or lose the one you love. Harold stood alone in the burning house, the firelight reflecting on his face. He did not shed tears, but his whole body trembled. In his hand was his daughter's small bracelet. From that moment, Orlando understood, there is love born of blood, and it will end in blood. Footsteps wading through the mud. The background music is slow and cold, like the last breath of a ghost. A lonely knock on the door. They flood the village in the night, leaving behind ashes, blood, and a wordless call from the forest. But for Orlando, the escape was only the beginning. For Esp, it was when she realized she had never truly escaped the ritual. Orlando went to the provincial police station. He told her everything, the blood ritual, the missing people, the burning house, the red-eyed child. The policeman just smoked, crossed his legs, and sighed. They are sumilang. Do you know who in the village has dared to touch them in the past 50 years? A young officer whispered to Orlando privately. I went there to investigate a missing person case last year. The 16-year-old girl disappeared right after a full moon. The report was withdrawn the next morning. Orlando left the police station. His hands were clenched so tightly that they pulled. Esp lay unconscious for many days. When she woke up, she couldn't remember anything, but she always dreamed. Her parents stood in the middle of the fire, their fangs as long as knives, their hands on fire, but they still smiled and called her back. She swam in a sea of blood, her heart beating outside her chest. Someone whispered, the ritual is not complete. One night, she woke up, her whole body cold. On the bedsheet, circle of dried blood. Esp understood, she was not just a survivor. She was the missing protagonist in an ancient ritual. Esp decided to return to the village alone to find her brother, Roland. A long, slow shot, she walked through the old streets. The villagers avoided her, dogs howled for no reason. Her house was empty. The altar was covered in dust, the walls were cracked. She called, Roland, no one answered. In the bedroom, Roland lies motionless on the bed. Esp approaches, her hand touches him and recoils in horror. Roland's chest is hollow. Deep, black hole where his heart has been removed. Dried blood stains the sheets like an unfinished ritual. While investigating, Orlando discovers unusual behavior among the village children. A boy bites the neck of a live chicken, then licks the blood. A group of girls play Bury the Heart, using Ibig's heart as a toy. Full moon night, the children line up, staring into the forest, whispering the same words. Tata Kajo, hayaan mo kaming matapos, Grandpa Kajo, let us finish. It's no longer a family. It's a system of blood transfusions, rituals, curses, like living machine. An old relative of Espis, who had long since left the village, came to her at night. She whispered, when you were 7, they chose you. Your blood was the best, but you ran away. The ceremony was incomplete, they never forgave you. If you live, then someone else must die. That is the price of balance. Espi collapsed. Tears fell without stopping. An image lingered. She sat in the middle of the house, holding her head in her hands, muttering, if I go back, how many people will survive? There are rituals that need not be completed, because the incompleteness is the curse. But if Esp does not end it, then those children will complete it for her. The engine stopped abruptly. The police car door opened. Footsteps faltered on the wet ground. The soundtrack was tense, like gas before an explosion. The wind in the forest whistled like the breath of something waiting. When you see the truth, you can't go back. But sometimes you have to go back. To face it, to finish. Orlando and Espe led the police to the edge of the village. At the rotten wooden gate, no one dared to enter. No warrant. No victims. We can't risk it because of rumors. Espe looked at Orlando. They both understood they had to go on their own. Orlando took her hand. I'll go with you. No, Espe shook her head. You have to go in alone. This is your blood. They didn't hug. They didn't promise. They just turned away silently, as if they knew one of them would never come back. Espe sneaks into the house. The house is bathed in a strange yellow light. Candles are placed everywhere in a spiral. The two grandchildren, Harold's children, are sitting in the middle of the house, silent, eyes closed. Their parents, the adults, stand in a circle, chanting ancient prayers. On the altar, ceremonial knife, butchered chicken, and blood poured into a goblet of human ivory. This is no longer ceremony. This is a blood transfusion. Turning a human into an heir. Espe steps in. The whole circle of ritual stops. Her mother, hair as white as ice, eyes as black as ice, whispers, "You're back. Finally we can finish." Espe shakes her head, standing in front of the grandchildren. No child should have to live like you. The struggle is fierce. Her mother rushes in with long, hooked fingernails. Her father jumped from the chair, rusty machete in hand. Espe burned her shirt with a candle, pushed the altar over, and grabbed the ritual knife. In her last moments, Espe did not see Demon but the mother who had lulled her to sleep. But she had to end this cycle of blood with her own hands. She stabbed her mother in the chest. Her mother screamed, not a human voice. The whole ceremony collapsed, the candles went out, everyone fainted. The two children opened their eyes. Their eyes were still red but no longer pitch black. Apat. Running from the village, carrying what no one dared to keep. Espe hugged the two children and ran from the house. Orlando was waiting outside, rushing to help them. The group ran toward the mountains, not looking back. From afar, the mother's last howl echoed, like a soul severed from the earth. A few weeks later, Orlando and Espe sat in a cheap room in another town. The two children played well in the corner, but always dipped their hands in raw meat, licking blood like candy. Night. Espe did not sleep. She heard whisper behind her neck. Your grandmother will not forgive. They have left the village. But the curse will not. There are things you cannot hide from. Because it is not in the forest. It is in your own blood. Close up, the girl's hand breaks the neck of a sparrow. Blood splatters on her white shirt. The girl looks straight into the camera, smiling. Tata Kadyo said, I am ready. Ubusan ng Lahi is not a legend. It is a legacy. It is a warning. It is a rift between humans and the demon in the blood.